All right, everybody. Hope you're having a good Monday. Had a great talk with a current partner um, in the last few days, and we got into the discussion of, hey, what if Trump wins the election, right? With the attempt on his life, with the current president bowing out of this next race, there's just a lot in the air, right? So the question was, even before Biden decided to drop out of the race, was like, hey, what if Donald Trump wins his reelection? I guess you could say postponed reelection, but it wins in 2024, right? What's going to happen to energy prices, right? Because Trump is very drill, baby, drill, right? And what does that mean? So we're going to look at some historical stuff. We're going to kind of go through it real quick. The betting odds for U.S. president. Again, this is Monday, the 22nd of July. So right now, Donald Trump is favored. Um, Kamala Harris is trailing behind quite a bit, and Michelle Obama a little behind her. Gavin Newsom the same, and then Gretchen Whitmer, Hillary Clinton, Robert Kennedy Jr. is like really far out there, and all the other ones are not even really polling type thing because it's not the percentage isn't that great. So another way to look at it, if you bet $100 Donald Trump would win, you'd win $50, right? You get one half. If you bet $100 on Kamala Harris winning and she won, you would more than double your money, right? So if you bet on Donald Trump and he actually won, you can only get half your money back. But if you bet on Kamala Harris, you get more than two times your money. You get more than two times your money back. So it's one of those things where it's like Vegas is saying the odds are that Donald Trump would win. So let's take a look at what happens, right? First thing, my prediction. Let's take a look at here's some historical crude oil chart. I just want to show it to you. First thing, I have a thought that overall that our economy is hurting quite a bit, right? Jobs, it's hard to find jobs. Funny, ask your Uber driver next time you're Uber, just say, hey, what do you do for a living? Because typically they're going to have to do this part time and find something else. Typically, what I have found is they're just trying to make fast cash to pay rent, or they got a second job to secure things, or something of that. They're in a lot of need, right? There are very few. And sometimes this happens. They come out of retirement because things are expensive, and they're like, I just want to make sure I pay all my bills. So I just Uber around, get away from my wife or something like that, or vice versa. Um, but you find these people aren't doing it out of, yeah, I'm just bored. I just want to make a little extra cash just because there's something to do, like a hobby or something in Ubering, right? They're not doing it for tax write-offs. I did run into a guy who was an accountant. He Ubered once a month just for the tax write-offs because he wrote everything off. Things like that, right? These people are doing it out of a huge need, and you'll find that people, I'm talking to not just Uber drivers, but other people, they're working two, three jobs trying to like puzzle this thing together to get a full-time paycheck or make all the bills meet or keep up with the Joneses and such, right? And you can do that for a time, but after a time, people break. And I've been there because when I built my first business, I worked two extra jobs, right? That one and Starbucks and bartending, right, or waiting tables. So I tell you, it's not a fun life, right? And I did it for a certain time, and then I said, okay, that's enough, right? Because something's gonna break. And I was a young single guy, right? I could go without health insurance at that age. Wouldn't suggest it. But just imagine people with a kid or two, or got a wife and they're older or something like that. I mean, the people are hurting. The average person is hurting out there. There are people that are doing well, like you and I and others, but the average person that makes the bottom base of the economy is really hurting right now. Okay, you throw in things like America's at $1 trillion plus in credit card debt, not the good type of debt, not houses, not mortgages, not education, not things that will provide for themselves to pay that debt back and more. Now this is like just credit card swipe the Visa type thing. You find tech jobs are starting to lay off, and there's all these things that I can go on for a while. But my point is, the economy is really weak, right? And we are bondoing or duct taping it along right now, and it's only going to take something to tip this thing off and to make the whole thing house of cards fall or fail. Okay. And historically, what that has been energy prices. Okay, as we look at this, we go back all the way to the 1950s, which, by the way, $2, $3, not a gallon of gas, a barrel of oil, right? Those are some good prices. This is back when a gallon of gas was like 15 to 25 cents. You know what I'm saying? Um, we're gonna pull it into the 70s because a lot of people think now is like the 70s, right? So you start in 1970. Again, oil is pretty linear. Sometime around 74 is when Nixon pulls us off the gold standard, and that's where America changed forever, right? Because the government no longer had to be held accountable, and they could just print, baby, print, right? With if they gave each other permission, if you get my drift. So oil popped up, it more than doubled, went to $10 a barrel type thing. And at the same time, we were in the middle of a very stagflationist recession, kind of what we're seeing here, right? But a little different. But you had pinches in the Middle East. You had the banking sector failing, right? The Middle East was saying, "Hey, we're not gonna, in protest, we're not going to give America oil." America did not have its own oil resources or very much oil resources at the time. So oil doubled and it stayed that way, right? And again, if this chart shows anything, as inflation goes, oil goes up higher with it, right? It's very inflation protected. Um, you get to the late 1970s. And again, I remember that the 70s and 80s are kind of combined, but I remember 80, somebody said like between 80 and 82 was a very hard time. Like most of the 70s, especially the last half from like 74 to onward, 75 onward, was very stagflationary. Not a fun time for families at all, from what I've heard from people that were children and remember what the stress their parents went through, right? And at the end of the 70s into the early 80s, like 82, was it like there was a back-to-back recessions, right? Because again, Volcker pulled us off in this first one. He had raised rates and everything, trying to keep the economy going. It was too much pressure, whatever, like that, pulled it back. So we went into another stagflation thing, and he had to put rates down, and then he pulled them back when they were going back into a recession, right? So it was this yo-yo effect where it was like because inflation's such a hard thing to quell out, right? It's almost like you can't do it. You can't stop raging inflation without um, a recession. Okay, so that was here. 82 was bad. That was when the recession hit. But again, oil when it popped up, came down. It cuts itself typically in half. This time went back down to its original. It was at 14. Went down to 10, then popped back up a little higher than its original, which was 18. Um, Coming in the 90s, I forget what I think it was the savings and trust. I forget what the 90s one was, but there was a recession there. Oil spiked, again, causing the recession. There was a weakness. The recessions are caused by weak economies being over leveraged. Oil spikes and hits the economy, knocks the rest of it down, knocks the weak legs out from under it, right? And then oil typically gets cut in half and rebounds. This time it stayed flat for a while, went down a little bit, then popped back up in the 2000s, right in time for the dot-com bubble, right? That popped. Again, oil was at $30, $33, went down to 19, so it didn't cut itself halfway much. And then from there, something happened. I'm not sure what, but we were off to the races. Like, look at that. We were just off to the races. The economy, everything. And then again, housing went crazy in this time as well, featuring us or setting us up for the next bubble, which was a 2008 bubble, right? And again, a lot of things happen in this, right? A lot of things combine to make these storms happen. And the economy was weak then. Again, 2007, I graduated then. I was looking for a job. It was horrible. I was young, I was smart, I was energetic, ready to work, chomping at the bit, capable. And I remember there were so many companies that literally said, "Hey, James, we want to hire you, but we have 3 or 4 people behind you with 5, 10, 15 years experience, and we just can't let that go. We have to hire, we got to pick one of them." And I'm like, okay, what do I do? So when started my own business, and here I am. And it's kind of a mixed blessing, to be honest with you. But again, oil spikes, knocks the crud out of the economy again because weak legs cuts it. It hits actually the golden years. Like it hit about 150 for like a few days, right? pops down to $44, pops back up within, let's see here, this is about February, pops back up to January. So was that February to January? Sorry, December to March-ish. Regains 50% or more of what it lost, right? Pops back up again, and you see the trend, right? Stays high for a while, falls down. This is, and here's the funny thing about this, or we're talking politics, right? Um, 2000, this whole leg up with oil from 2000 2008 was a Republican president, right? I mean, it was Bush second. Okay, if I'm doing my math right on the years, yeah. Then 2000 we had Obama, which oil prices kept high from that, right? And he did something that made them fall. I forget what it was, right? Then we have 2020, sorry, 2020, 2016 is when um, President Trump had his first one. Again, they hovered around $40 to $60 a barrel type thing. Then we had the uh, COVID recession that we had. I don't know if I can say that word anymore on YouTube, but we had that recession right here. So oil went like negative for a day or two and popped back up. Then we had the Russian war where it popped again, geopolitical stuff, and now it's hovering, been very strong, hovering above 60, right? So let's see here. Yeah, 60 is kind of the floor for it. So what's my point in this is that for one thing, I joke around and I say that if you have a liberal president, and again, I'm not going to get political, we're going to get political here. This is all about the election. If you have a liberal president, three things go up: your taxes, guns and ammo, and oil and gas. Right? That's true, but history sometimes breaks that, right? Because even during the Bush administration, we had high oil prices, right? Led us in, and the whole economy was in a rip. Led us into a giant recession. We had a Obama come in as president, and he didn't really fix oil prices, right? Uh, until about kind of his second term, sometime like right as he was leaving office, he did something. I forget what it was. And Trump just kind of like he said, "Hey, drill, baby, drill." But even in the drill, baby, drill phase, you still have $50 to $70 oil in the middle of that, right? And there's a lot of other things that can hit oil geopolitically, right? So my summary of what's going to happen is that I think Trump's going to get in. He's going to want drill, baby, drill, right? But the issue is this: is that let me see, it was the EIA number. Okay, well, here's one of the issues. We're going to come back to this guy a little bit. Um, Here we go. The U.S. rig count, right? Rigs drill wells, wells produce oil and gas, right? And new wells produce a lot of oil and gas, much more than their predecessors 5 years ago, right? Both because of technology and because of the decline curve. So you want lots of rigs. Lots of rigs drills holes into the ground, which pull more oil and gas out. Before the pandemic, right? We had probably about 1,100. This chart shows a little better, but we had about 1,100, right? Of rigs. Sorry, that's wrong year. Here we go, 2019. Yeah, like between 1,000. Here we go. I think it topped out at uh, 10,800 or whatever. Or sorry, 1,080, right? So we had about 1,100 rigs. Okay, right now we are looking at just under 600. So we've got about half, a little over half the amount of rigs that are working now. A lot of the rigs now are more efficient at drilling oil, like the new ones that are drilling wells. Holy cow, they are barn burners. They are doing almost twice the normal production, right? So that's all good stuff. But my point is this: if Trump says drill, baby, drill, right? Well, this number is going to have to raise up because no matter how many, if you want to put a bunch of holes in the ground, that's great. But the problem is you got to have a tool to do it. So think about this. Let's say we're going to put it on a roof and you've got all the shingles and all the nails and everything. Like, that's great. Let's put this roof on. And you say, okay, here's your one hammer. And you're like, well, I don't think we're gonna get this up today, right? It's gonna take a few days if you give me one hammer to nail all of these nails in for the roof, right? It's true. If you had 100 hammers and of course people to go with them, then you'd get it done a lot faster. And that's what we're facing, right? Is that it's going to take a lot more hammers to drills to drill holes in the ground here than we have currently, and those take time to produce, right? You can't just order a rig. These rigs are millions of dollars and very sensitive pieces of equipment. You can't just order on Amazon today and get it in the mail tomorrow. Okay, they're gonna take time to build. So with that, what I predict is if Trump wins, he's going to be, day one drill, baby drill, cool. There's going to be leases that are new leases that are being set up, and oil companies are going to be on the move and drilling and stuff like that. And I think that the price for oil will take a small hit at first on the news, right? And then what happens is it's going to rebound and stay consistent for about a year because it's going to take a year and stuff to drill these things in. These things, you can't just undo 4 years of negative policy and oil and gas companies pulling back saying, hey, we don't trust this administration they don't have our best interest. They've got their boots on our neck. Why are we going to invest more and more, right? So it's going to take some time. A lot of S people say it's going to take about a year to figure everything out. Maybe two, give or take. Probably, I think it's going to be less than two, right? But it could be up to two because things are just so damaged in the energy industry right now. And that would follow a lot of what a lot of people are saying in 2025. Because if we look at the way oil works, you have these giant spikes and then it eats itself type thing, or the economy. It eats the economy, and the economy eats oil, pushes oil back down because people once the economy breaks, they don't use as much energy, right? So it's always in the back end. That's pretty normal for oil. So what I see in the future is that oil is going to have a really big a really big spike here in the next year. It's going to do really well, and then it's going to fall back down, right? Once the economy crashes. That's just my guess. That's my prediction. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm Nostradamus. I'm saying historically, that's what we see a lot of times. The stuff, if you're of the opinion that we fixed everything by putting $5 trillion into the economy from 2020, then I and a lot of others that I can send your way that are people that are smarter than both you and I that have studied this, that have worked for the Fed and are in the private sector can tell you it's going to be different, right? They're all predicting things that are different. And unemployment is the real big key. And we're seeing jobs slow. It feels like 2024 was 2006, and sometime either this year or next year it's going to feel like 2007, and then 2008 is when everything hit for the last recession. I think that's going to hit sometime next year, right? So we're in this. Let's see if we can pull it through here. So I feel like we're in this phase somewhere right around here, right? We haven't quite hit that recession yet, okay? Because we'll be about here or so once they call this line, right? So that's what I think is going to happen. We can look at some other charts while I got you on here. Oh, here's the other thing. Uh, Also, the SPR. Here's another item that is. It's hard to take into account what's going to happen with it, how it's going to affect oil. Okay, but the SPR is drained. It is so when Biden took. Let's see here. This is when Trump took. Yeah, 2020. All right, so here's 2020 when Biden took. Let's say before Trump, it was like 690,000 barrels. During Trump, it lost about 50,000 barrels, give or take. Popped up to 650 when Biden hit. He started draining a little bit, and then he drained a lot for the preliminary elections, or the whatever they're called. My mind's not working right now, but he drained the crud out of it. So it's about a little over 50% of what it was, right? And this is for wartime usage. Okay. So I know whoever the president is, like, they've got to fill this back up. These are at unacceptable levels, right? I mean, it started in the 70s because of what happened that talked earlier about the Middle East and putting embargoes on the U.S. And so we started to stock up a bit, right? And we have historically we've had it around 500 to 600 million barrels. Now it's at like 350, right? The Biden administration for the last few weeks has started to put a little bit back in, not much, but a little bit. And again, when you have another buyer, that's U.S. government, that is, hey, their check will not bounce. That's going to push oil prices up and help keep them up a little bit, right? So when will Trump do this? I don't know. He could he could push energy prices down and then start to say, hey, it gets here, we're going to start to refill the strategic petroleum reserve, and that'll give it an uplift of like $10 a barrel or something, and have it hover very well. I don't know, but on the other side is once the oil companies do drill, baby, drill. Does that mean we're just going to make the same and as investors in hard assets in oil and gas, we're just going to make the same money just on what we're doing, but less. Excuse me, we're making less money. No, what's going to happen is oil producers are going to two things are going to happen. One, their costs are going to be cheaper, right? Because all of their hard costs are like in oil and water, sand and water and diesel and stuff like that. It takes diesel to get the rigs out there to drill, right? They're using their own supply in a sense. So all of these and the contractors go with them, their costs lower when oil's lower, right? So the energy company now says, okay, well, $10 million, $12 million used to drill this one well, okay, but now we can get away with a well at $6 or $7 million, so we can drill about two of them with the same amount of money, right? So they're going to start doubling up and doing things like that. That's what we predict will happen in the future. So there will be, to recap, if Trump's president, I think there's going to be oil is going to go take a hit, then recover and just stay pretty steady for the next 12 months, right? And again, I don't know when the recession is going to come. It may come later this year or early 2025, but there's going to be some recession where oil spikes, and this is after that, okay? So after that, oil is going to come, and Trump says, drill, baby, drill. Oil is going to take a small hit but recover because they can't just drill the next day, okay? It's going to take some time. So the sellers are going to react. People are going to start shorting it. It's going to push the price down, and then it's going to rebound because they're going to realize, oh wait, the these the Cushing inventories aren't going up very fast or whatever like that or something like that, right? So that's going to happen, and then it's going to take about a year, maybe two, and then oil is going to be pretty well affected. But we're going to make a ton of cash in between then, and that year or so of lag afterwards, we're going to start seeing producers double up on our minerals and such, double up in the Gulf and double up in the Permian, and produce more wells so they can make the same amount of cash flow, right? Because again, they're hurting too. So in other words, instead of selling one cheeseburger at $10 a barrel per se, they're saying, okay, it's at $5 a barrel. We're just going to sell two cheeseburgers now, okay, to try and make up for it. So that, and then we as producers, we get the benefits of that, of having minerals that other people are paying to drill and we're not paying anything. So yeah, if you have any more questions about that, those are my predictions. I hope your Monday goes well, and I'll see you on the other side.